starting to feel the strain. Was it a bicycle? What is wrong with my brain? Is it the end of me? No, I must still believe. So I'm still in love, you see. Heck yeah, now I'm on my way. But let's stay focused, there's still a job in hand that we must do. Cameras start to click, we know what create is something new. So go Marty and Sarah and Mark and Matt, Owen, Smitty, McGrilly and Jamie Lane in the Archer County Band. The Archer County Band. The Archer County Band. The Archer County Band. Stop the clock, we're done, we're rolling. Sound the horn and sing that we are going. 27 hours, that is the time. So let's hop on the bus and let it shine, 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 shine. Say sha la 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 la, 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 sha la 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 la. Good afternoon, folks. You are very welcome to Bandido Talks. You know, the Bandido folks had a moment of reflection earlier this week. As you can see from the title of our show, from the thumbnail of our show, who are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about the Dinosaur Man. That's how I know him. I think a lot of other people around the world know Sam Neill, who of course acted Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park, the Dinosaur Man. You know, much has been said since the passing of Sam Neill earlier this week, and when I say much has been said, I don't think I have seen a single negative thing. Every single thing that I've seen online, everybody loves and admires. I was going to say Dr. Alan Grant, but Sam Neill. Now, you know, look, let me tell you something interesting, folks. Why are we doing a show on Sam Neill's passing? It might seem a little odd, given what we normally talk about here on Bandido Talks, but I'm going to explain why. Before we get into this, why we're even doing a show on Sam Neill. Why do a show on this gentleman? Well, you see, as I've already said, and I have to be honest here, bit of honesty from the Bandido, I only know Sam Neill from one role, and that is Jurassic Park. The first Jurassic Park movie and the third one. Now, I think he made an appearance in one of the more recent Jurassic Parks in 2022. I don't watch any of them. I consider them, as pieces of movie art that don't exist. Now, some people would say, oh, but Jesus, you need to watch them. No, I don't. All I need to do is look at the trailer. That's why we have trailers, folks. At this stage of my life, I've seen enough movies, I've seen enough TV shows, so that whenever I see a trailer, I can pretty much tell if I'm going to like this or not. And the most recent Jurassic Park movies, no. All I need is a 2-minute trailer, and I can tell that this is just not going to cut it. But the original Jurassic Park, look, is it the most electrifying plot and story? No. It's pretty simple to follow. Dinosaurs on an island. Dinosaurs attack and try to eat and kill humans. Humans try to escape from said island. Okay, it's not the most convoluted plot. It's not going to stretch your brain to try and figure out what's happening. But that's not the point. Look, all movies are different, all TV shows are different, all books are different. They're all aimed at different audiences. But what I can say is that for me, personally, I only know Sam Neill via Jurassic Park. The first original, iconic Jurassic Park movie, and the third one, with the Spinosaurus. The Spinosaurus Jurassic Park movie, where it kills the T-Rex, and for some reason the Spinosaurus is constantly attacking the group of humans. Fuck knows why. Who knows why these dinosaurs just seem to have a thirst for human flesh and blood. They're always chasing them. But look, what I will say is, Sam Neill's performance as Dr. Alan Grant, terrific. Absolutely terrific. He has this vibe that whenever Dr. Alan Grant appears on screen, you sort of feel like everything's going to be okay. He is the resident expert. He's Mr. Cool. He's the one who seems to know how to make the right decision when the pressure's on. He's a little bit like Dumbledore out of Harry Potter. You know the way when Dumbledore appears in the books? I don't want to talk about the Harry Potter movies. No, we're not going to talk about Harry Potter and the movies. We're going to talk about Harry Potter and the books. But when Dumbledore appears in the books in Harry Potter, you have this feeling of all is good in the world. All is well in the world. Everyone is saved. There's just that feeling. That's the feeling that the character of Dumbledore and Dr. Alan Grant gives me in their respective worlds. So look, he's a paleontologist. That's who he's acting. And I think I can speak for a lot of people. Again, seeing the Jurassic Park movie, the original movie as a kid, one of the main reasons why I loved the movie so much was Sam Neill's performance as Dr. Alan Grant. He just brought this fantastic vibe to the movie. This vibe of knowledge, tension with the way he acted, sort of introspective. He had this sort of introspective nature to him where he didn't say a lot. Dr. Alan Grant doesn't say a lot, but when he speaks, his words have potency. He's one of those characters. He doesn't say a lot, he's not blabbering all the time. When he speaks, normally there's sense that comes out of his mouth, but also there's a certain tension that surrounds the character. That's what I've always found anyway. Because of his knowledge, because he knows a whole shit ton about raptors and dinosaurs, when he says something and he gives those sort of facial expressions and body language cues throughout the movies, you can feel the tension because he knows the degree of danger that everybody else is in, even if they themselves don't fully realize it. And we as an audience, we get to watch the resident expert, Dr. Alan Grant, and we observe him and we use him as a reference for how preoccupied we as an audience member should be for the main characters. So look, this is how I know Sam Neill. I have to be honest, I have not watched any other movies with Sam Neill. So I'm not here as a Sam Neill fanboy or, someone who has followed his career extremely closely. I haven't. I know him from Jurassic Park, Dr. Alan Grant. That's my memory of Sam Neill. In fact, I would even argue, I don't really think it's a difficult argument to make. I know far more about Dr. Alan Grant than I do about Sam Neill. I don't really know anything about the man, to be quite honest. Isn't that funny? I know one of his characters better than him. And so, as I lay this out, and I explain to you that, look, I only know Sam Neill's performance from Jurassic Park. That's how I know the man. That's the character, Dr. Alan Grant. That's the iconic role. Whenever I see Sam Neill's head, I think there's Dr. Alan, the paleontologist out of Jurassic Park. And because I haven't followed his career very closely at all, you then may be thinking, why the fuck are you doing a show on him? Why? If you're not a big fan, and you don't really know a lot about him beyond his role in Jurassic Park, why are you doing a show? Well, here's the thing that I found very interesting earlier this week. When I heard that Sam Neill had died at 78 years of age, I had a strange feeling. I had a strange feeling inside. And it was a strange feeling that it took me just a little while to figure out, why do I feel emotionally invested in Sam Neill's passing? I didn't know the man personally, and I've only ever really seen him act out one character, Dr. Alan Grant. So it's not as if I have this tremendous connection with Sam Neill, either personally or as an avid fan of his work. So why am I feeling this sort of strong bubbling emotional feeling with respect to Sam Neill's passing? Why do I feel invested in this story? And so I sat with it, and I thought, yeah, I can't really get this out of my head. Sam Neill, the dinosaur man, has passed. And so, as I thought about it for a little bit, I soon realized why I sort of felt emotionally invested in Sam Neill's passing. And so I thought I had to do a show about this, because there are some good lessons, actually, that I uncovered through a little bit of self-reflection, having heard the news of Sam's passing. This is what we're going to talk about on the show, folks. I've got a little article here from the BBC. What would a show be without the BBC? The BBC was covering Sam's passing. And as I read the article, something popped into my head. We're going to bring the article up on screen here. And we're not going to read the whole thing. We're going to read a bit of it. Because there are two big lessons that I'm going to try and, throw out into the universe. Hopefully the universe will be full of these two extra lessons after the Bandido does this show. Two lessons. Two important things. Because when I reflected, why do I feel so drawn in by Sam Neill's passing? Why? Well, I'm going to give an explanation as to why I feel drawn in, and broadly speaking, why people like me feel drawn to celebrities, actors, musicians, sports people who die. Why do we feel so invested, either in their death or when they retire? Because it happens as well, folks. Whenever you see a sports person retire, and you see this big ceremony being held for them, and you've got people in the stands weeping. They're weeping because their favourite sports person has decided to hang up the boots or hang up the racket. Why do people react so emotionally to something like a retirement? Why do people react so emotionally to someone's passing? Most of the people who are familiar with Sam Neill, they don't know him personally. They only really know him through his characters that he's acted. So why do so many people feel so invested? And I include myself in this. So that's the first thing we're going to explore. And then the second thing we're going to explore is, from this article, there's something interesting that we can take from this article that we're going to read. And it's something we can apply to our own existence. The Bandido has a few thoughts on this as well. So those are the two things that we're going to base the show around. We're going to base it around this notion of, why are people so emotionally invested in retirements of celebrities from their domain of expertise, and when these celebrities die, even though we don't know them personally. That's number one. And then number two, what is it that we can learn from this BBC article once we go through it? Alright, so let's get into this, folks. I think, what way are we going to do this? You know what, before we get into the article, let's talk about the first thing. Because we leave the article to the end. That'll be a better way to close the show. Now that I'm thinking about it, the Bandido needs to get his ducks in a row here, in the right order. So let's talk about this first thing. Why do people feel so emotionally invested when a celebrity, famous person, who doesn't know them, they are effectively a stranger, they have no relevance in their lives, why do people feel so invested in either the retirement of a sports person, musician, actor, or their death? Even though the musician, actor, sports person doesn't know who they are, and actually hasn't really, in a tangible, sort of measurable way, they haven't actually done something for these people. Yet these consumers, in this case, of their art or their sport, feel so affected by their passing or their retirement. Why? Why does this happen? Because this is what's happened to me. As I've said, when I heard Sam Neill had passed, I had this sort of pang in my stomach. I was like, man, that's the dinosaur man. That's Dr. Alan Grant. 78 years of age. Why do I feel like I'm invested in this passing? Well, let's talk about this. Now, Sam Neill passing. When I actually thought about this, and I have to be honest here, folks, was I actually sad in and of itself that Sam Neill had died? Like, was I actually sad for him, for his family, for his friends? Is that the reason why I felt emotionally invested? No. I have to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and pretend as though I care about the feelings of his family and friends. I don't. That's not the reason why I felt this emotional, let's just say, attraction, this emotional investment in his passing. So whenever I thought about it, I thought, no, I'm not really, I don't really have any, I'm not bothered by what his friends or family are feeling. I have to be honest. And even Sam himself, I don't really feel bad or sad for him that he's passed either. So why am I feeling invested? Let me explain from my perspective why I'm invested in Sam Neill's passing. This, folks, when things like this happen, when a famous person who we have some sort of a connection with, maybe not personally, but I've already explained the connection that I have with Sam Neill. It's through a character that he acted, Dr. Alan Grant, in Jurassic Park. Now, when I first watched Jurassic Park, what age do you think I was? 7, 8 years of age, probably. And I watched those movies many times after. When I was 10, when I was 13, when I was 16, I have watched the Jurassic Park, the original Jurassic Park trilogy, I would say probably 10 times. You know, when I think about it all over the years, the amount of times when I was a young person, you know, a young kiddo, and it was the summer holidays, and it's 9 p.m. at night, and, you know, I'm eating some popcorn, and I'm flicking through the television channels. Oh, there's Jurassic Park on. I'll just watch that for the 10th time. You know, I've done that many times when I'm younger. So I would say I've watched these movies a shit ton. Certainly throughout my childhood. Not really since, you know, I've become an adult, but certainly in my childhood. And so what has happened? Well, you see, when we live our lives, folks, we can sometimes be a little bit oblivious to the passage of time, especially when you're younger. You know, I'm only 31, still a young man, and I pretty much look the same as I did in my 20s. You know, maybe I'm a little more, my physique has probably changed a little. You know, maybe I've grown a little more facial hair. My hair's a little longer now. Fair enough, there are certain physical features that have been altered. But in terms of how old I look, I would argue that I look just about as old at 31 as I do at 21. I don't really look that old, not in my own opinion. If I were to, you know, cut my hair short and shave off any facial hair that I have, I would pretty much look like my 18 or 19-year-old self. I'm pretty sure of that, to be quite honest. So, when we're young, folks, and even for older people too, we can sometimes be a little bit oblivious about the passage of time. And it can sort of sneak up on us. You know, you're living your life, you're doing your things, your little activities, your hobbies, you go to work, you come back, you eat some food, you go to sleep, you wake up, you do some exercise, go to work again, do a few more hobbies, meet up with your friends. You know, you do all this stuff in your life. And as you're busy doing things, you're not always paying attention to the passage of time. Until an event happens that makes you pause and realize that time is in fact passing. What do I mean by this? Well, as I've said, using myself as an example, I feel like I'm 18. Psychologically, I feel like I'm 18. I don't really feel like, you know, 13 years have passed since my 18th birthday. It really doesn't feel like 13 years at all. And I don't really look that old compared to when I was 18. Pretty much the same. And then what happens, folks? Every now and again, you get a reminder from the universe that, oh no, you may not think time is passing, but Mr. Bandido, it is passing. And this is why I, personally, feel emotionally invested in Sam Neill's passing. Because Sam Neill's passing is a reminder to me that I am getting older. I may not feel like it. I may not even, when I look in the mirror, I may not even look like I'm getting older. And so there can be a little bit of delusion in there. You can sort of delude yourself into thinking, well, you know, maybe I'm the exception. Maybe I'm not aging. Maybe I'll live forever. And as you get into that little bubble, that little space, you become oblivious, largely, to the passage of time. And then, when you turn on your phone, and the news comes up that Sam Neill has passed, he has died, it makes you realize and go, oh, hold on, Sam Neill, that's the dinosaur man. That's Dr. Alan Grant. Are you telling me that Dr. Alan Grant has died? And then you sit back and you go, well, but Dr. Alan Grant, I was watching Dr. Alan Grant when I was 8. And I was watching him when I was 15. And then you realize, well, if I was watching Dr. Alan Grant when I was 8 and 15 years of age, and I'm actually 31 now, then this is unavoidable. This is, you know, undeniable evidence that I am aging. Because if I was watching him back then at that age, then that means he was a few decades younger too. And the fact now that he's 78 and he's no longer with us, that must mean that he has aged. And if he has aged, then I have aged. And even though I may be in my little deluded bubble thinking that I'm not aging, this temporarily whips me out of that state. And it makes me realize, fuck, I am aging. I may not look like it, I may not feel like it, but I am. And it's a timely reminder that time is indeed passing, and time whether I like it or not, is indeed acting upon my body. And someday, you know, if I'm lucky, I will make it to Sam Neill's age, 78. That's the direction I'm heading. Hopefully the Bandido doesn't get squished on his way towards 78, but that's where I'm heading. And I think that's what it is, folks. For me. That's why whenever I saw Sam Neill had died, it's essentially a reminder to me that I'm aging. Because whenever I was most frequently watching Sam Neill act out his role as Dr. Alan Grant, I was a young whippersnapper. I was 8, 9, 10 years of age. And my own memory circuits can actually recall certain moments when I'm sitting down in my old house, my parents' old house, with, you know, a bowl of cereal or some popcorn or some chocolate, you know, some rich tea biscuits. You know, I'm sitting down, making my little arse groove in the chair, getting ready to watch Jurassic Park for the fucking 10th time. And, you know, I can remember that as a kid. But here I am at 31. I'm not a kid anymore. And the actor that I was watching on screen is now dead. And this is irrefutable evidence that I am aging. And so what it does is, it makes me reflect, essentially. That's why when I say there's an initial little, you know, pang in the stomach, there's an initial sort of, I feel drawn to the story for some reason. Why? Why am I drawn to the story? I don't know Sam Neill. I don't know him personally. He doesn't know me personally. I haven't even followed his career very closely. I only know him for one role, Dr. Alan Grant out of Jurassic Park. Why do I feel so invested in his passing? Well, I can only speak from my own perspective. His passing tells me that I'm aging, because I used to watch these movies when I was young. And now that he's not here, it's undeniable evidence. Even though I have a big cloud of delusion surrounding me, convincing myself that I'm not really aging, I'm not getting older, this tells me I am. And so it makes you reflect. It makes you briefly ponder what you're doing in life. This is what happens, folks. These are like little checkpoints along the way. It's almost as if the universe has said, Mr. Bandido, I'm going to give you a checkpoint just to remind you that you are, in fact, on a one-way high road towards destination death. You know, it is going to come. And I'm just making you realize through, you know, the passing of someone who's famous the world over, someone who connects you to your childhood. Because that's the thing, folks. Sam Neill is like a bridge. And there are other, you know, people in the world, we have this with music. Music can transport us back to a time in our lives in the past. It's the same with movies and characters. In this case, Sam Neill, his performance as Dr. Alan Grant, it acts as a bridge from the present to the past. So his performance brings me back to my childhood. And this is a reminder, because if I'm having to travel from the present back to the past, that tells me time has passed. Time is continuing to tick, because we've opened up this vast, expanse, this vast chasm of time. And Sam Neill's performance in Jurassic Park is a bridge. It brings me back to the childhood that I once had. And it makes you think. That's the thing. It's normal and it's natural. We all have these things in life. I mean, it might actually be the passing of a loved one of ours. It causes us to pause, reflect, and think, am I actually using my time, energy, and attention in the way that I want to use it in this life? And it's not a negative thing, folks. I'm not saying I'm depressed or fucking even sad. I wouldn't even describe myself as sad. I would describe myself as reflective. That's what happened. When I heard about his passing, I started to reflect and think, there's someone who acts as a bridge to my childhood who's no longer here. So it's almost like, I'm not saying that it's severed the bridge. It's not that the bridge has been severed or destroyed. But it's telling me that that person, you know, they've ran their course. Their life has ran its course. And they aren't immortal. Because sometimes when we look at fictional characters, and most of the time, folks, when we look at actors, we don't even know the actors. Most of the time. Like, we don't know them personally. It's maybe a little bit different now in the age of social media, where they share more of their life with the general public, but they're only sharing snippets, really. Nobody truly knows what an actor is like behind closed doors, what a musician's like, what a sports person is like. We can only guess. We mostly know these people through the roles that they play, in the case of acting. I know Johnny Depp because he plays Captain Jack Sparrow. That's how I know him. I know Leonardo DiCaprio because he plays Cobb out of Inception. I know Christian Bale because he plays Bruce Wayne out of The Dark Knight. I know Clint Eastwood because he plays Dirty Harry and Blondie out of The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. I don't know these people personally. I know them through their characters. And then when you find out that the actor who played the character has died, that person who acts as a bridge between you here in the present and some other time in your past history, it just makes you think, oh shit, time is passing. While the character is ageless. The character that they've played lives forever. There's no question about that. But when you hear that the actor who played the character is now giving you undeniable evidence that they are mortal, that they have passed on, there's a natural little reflective phase that people can go through. And that's what's happened with me, with Sam Neill. And then broadly speaking, folks, this is why, remember I said at the start of the show, why do people feel so sad whenever a sports person retires? I'll give you a good example. Roger Federer, the tennis player, when he retired from tennis, when was it? Back in 2021. I think it was 2021, 2022. I can't remember. I think it was 2021. I watched people in the stands weeping and crying. And you know, it looks weird because you're thinking to yourself, fuck me. This dude's a millionaire. He's got hundreds of millions. Why are you crying because he's hung up the racket? But that's the thing. I would argue that these people who are actually demonstrating they have strong displays of emotion towards Roger Federer, I don't really think they are sad or emotional in and of itself that he has retired. I'm going to make the argument that they're actually sad and emotional because it's a signal of the end of an era. It's the signal of an end of a phase in their life. By Roger Federer retiring, Roger Federer is basically signaling that time has caught up with him. In other words, so much time has passed that Roger Federer can no longer play tennis competitively at the top level. And I think people instinctively know this. They know it's the end of an era. And because it's the end of an era, this is signaling to these people that time is passing and that they are getting older too. Because for many people, Roger Federer was the bridge back to their younger days. Roger Federer brings them back to a period in their past. And in order to bring you from the present to the past, there must be a passage of time that has lapsed. And I think people, it can be quite overwhelming when you're in your little bubble, working, doing your hobbies, going out at the weekend, just living your life, and then all of a sudden you get whacked over the head. Holy fuck, Roger Federer has retired? What? Roger Federer, but he's immortal. He's supposed to play tennis until he's 72. He never gets injured. He's Mr. Elegance, Mr. Grace. He's retired? And then you see people then sit back and go, Roger Federer has retired. Well, if he's retiring, that must mean that an enormous amount of time has passed. And the retirement of Roger Federer is telling me that is the evidence that time is passing. And so people then can get whipped out of their little delusional bubble and get slapped around the face for a few minutes. And while this is happening, they're weeping and crying and they can't control themselves. Are they really that sad that Roger Federer can't swing a tennis racket and hit a wee fuzzy yellow ball on a concrete court? Is that really why people are sad? I would argue that the true sadness or emotionality is coming from a different place. It's a signal that time is passing. Roger Federer, Mr. Immortal, is getting older. And so are you and I. And that can be quite it can be quite an overwhelming thing for people when they're it's a bit like in the morning. If you're fast asleep and I come in and fucking throw a bucket of water over you, you're going to go, what the fuck? It's a shock to the system. You know, your heart rate, your heart will be pounding. You'll be thinking that you're getting attacked. You'll be wondering why you're feeling cold. Why are you damp? What's going on? The light's shining in your eyes. It would be very, abrupt and startling. It's the same thing here, in a way. People are getting a very cold bucket of water splashed over their face when a famous person that they've known, a famous person who bridges their present to their past, dies or retires. Because that's the thing, folks. The way human psychology is put together in such a way that we are sort of insulated against thoughts of mortality. It would have to be that way, because if we didn't have this sort of barrier, this insulation, then people would be walking around paranoid all day. You wouldn't be able to be functional. So your psychology is set up in a way so that you're not really able to comprehend your own death. Most people aren't. Most people know what the word death means. They have a dictionary definition. They can point to examples of it. But most people, their psychology is wired in a way that they're not really able to comprehend their own death. Because if their brain allowed them to fully understand their own mortality, it would be pretty paralyzing. People would be sort of unable to function. People probably wouldn't go to work. They'd just sort of sit in their house paralyzed. Well, I'm going to die. What's the point? How should I use my time? How should I use my energy? How should I use my attention? It would become so overwhelming if you were fully able to comprehend your own mortality that you would become unable to function. And so that's why I believe the human brain is set up in a way that it insulates you against pondering your own mortality. But every now and again, there will be an incident, there will be an event in the world, whether it's the death of a loved one, of your own, or the death of a famous celebrity who acts as a bridge from your present right now to your past, or the retirement of a sports person or something like this. These people, when they die or retire, it is an undeniable signal of the passage of time. And it can make sort of people get dragged out of their delusional bubble where they are insulated against their own mortality. And it can be very, very uncomfortable. And this is why people can get very emotional, I believe. Very emotional towards someone who doesn't know them, who hasn't really done anything, practically in their life. But yet people feel unbelievably emotional and drawn to their death or their retirement. So, that's part one, folks. That's why, whenever I saw Sam Neill and his passing, I'm very aware that Sam Neill, through his character of Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park, that is a bridge from my present to my past, to my childhood. And once I understand that the individual responsible for acting one of my favourite characters in that movie is now dead, that tells me, oh shit, time is passing. Time is passing. His character will live forever. Dr. Alan Grant will live on forever. That's true. But the fact that the actor has died tells us all that time is passing. And it is that comprehension that time is passing that can be quite startling for some people. And it can overwhelm people initially. And it doesn't last forever. You know, there's a period in which people will feel quite overwhelmed, quite emotional. It might take them a few days, it might take them a few weeks, it might take them a few months. It depends on the personality in question, how emotionally stable the person is. But, you know, they'll eventually get over it. Their brain will be able to, you know, gradually start insulating them once again against thoughts of their own mortality, because that's what this does, folks. When you see a famous person who's acting as a bridge between you and your past dying, it's a reminder of your own mortality. And, you know, you spend most of your life not thinking about your own mortality for good reasons. Your brain has a very good reason, as we've already talked about, for insulating you against this, for having you not fully comprehend your own mortality. Otherwise, you wouldn't be very functional. But every now and again, we get whipped out of that state. And we start to reflect and say, am I really living the life that I want to be living? Truly. Because this is a good reminder. This is why I said earlier, it's almost as if the universe gives us a little check every now and again. You know, life could be going great. Life could be going marvelously well for any one of us. And then what'll happen? Every now and again there'll be a little check. Just to remind you that, look, enjoy your life. Absolutely. But don't get complacent. Because you are aging. And I'm going to give you, the universe says I'm going to give you irrefutable evidence that you are aging. Because I'm going to take someone who's acting as a bridge from your present to your childhood, or from an earlier part in your life. I'm going to give you evidence that that person who acts as that bridge has died. That's the evidence. I'm going to show you that they're dead. And then by you seeing that they're dead, that makes you understand, shit, yeah, time is passing. I am getting older. And why is this a good thing, folks? This isn't a negative thing. Why is this a good thing? It's a good thing because it guards us, it alerts us to sloppy behavior. Sloppy, fucking careless behavior. Because people can get very sloppy and careless with their time, their energy, and their attention. It can absolutely happen. And we can all suffer from this. We can all get a little bit careless. You know, we can start to take things for granted in life. We can start to take people for granted. We can start to take activities that we're able to perform for granted. We can just start to take for granted, you know, the marvelous nature of the modern environment in which we live. You know, modern civilization offers us so many opportunities. We can all get a little careless and take things for granted. Then bang, the universe reminds us, check, Sam Neill has just died, 78 years of age, Mr. Bandido. Sam Neill acted as Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park. That is a movie, that is a character that acts as a bridge between your present and your past. And I am now going to draw your attention to this fact, that he acts as a bridge. And this is going to demonstrate to you that a large passage of time has passed. And then you understand, and you say, yeah, that's true actually. And that's why I felt the way I felt about Sam Neill. And it's why I would broadly say people feel the way they feel about rich, famous celebrities who do not know them, who have died. Or rich, famous celebrities or sports people who have retired from their craft. It's not really, in most cases, it's not really about the person dying or the person retiring. You just need to go a few layers deeper. It's more what their retirement or death signals. It's what the signal. It's the overall, you know, indication, what it's indicating to you. And what does it indicate? You're getting older. And why is this a fantastic thing? Why is it very important that we have little checks throughout our lives? It stops us from getting careless and sloppy. That is exactly what has happened to me this week. Whenever I read about Sam Neill dying, what do you think happened? I passed through a period of just reflecting. And what did I do in this moment of reflection? I thought about what I'm doing with my life. That is a very healthy, natural thing to do. Because when you sit back and you pull yourself out of your little delusional bubble, and oftentimes people, as we talk about, are walking around on autopilot. When you pull yourself out of your delusional bubble, when you pull yourself out of autopilot, if you're in autopilot, it makes you say, oh, hold on. This is evidence that I only get one life. This is evidence that I am aging. Should I really be living life in the way that I'm living it? Is this really the life I want to live? And if the answer is yes, then fantastic. Plow ahead. But for a lot of people will sit back and say, there's something nagging at me. There's like a thorn in my side here. And some people can't figure out why the passing of Sam Neill would be acting like a thorn in their side. It's almost as if it's like the act of Sam Neill passing. It's like it's trying to tell you. It's trying to get you to think. Get out of your bubble. Are you really living the life you want to live? Because I, the universe, I am giving you evidence that you are aging. You are on the one-way highway to destination death. It's coming for you. And I'm going to give you a reminder of it here. Because this person that you followed, this person who acts as a link or a bridge to a previous time in your life, they have died. They have died. So they have aged. And if they have aged, then you have aged. Because you're not an exception. You're flesh and blood. You're made of a whole bunch of cells too. And it's a great thing, folks, because for the last few days, I've just been having a think. Perfectly normal, perfectly natural. Am I doing the things that I want to be doing? Am I sure those are the things that I want to do? And if they are, great. We keep going. That was a very useful little reflection. That was a very useful just pause. And pause for a few minutes, pause for a few days, put the brakes on, and just think about your life and how you're using your time, your energy, and attention. For some people, though, this can bubble over. This can bubble to the surface, and they can get very emotional. And they don't really know why. They think they're emotional because Sam has died. They think that literally the failure of his organs and the literal death of his tissue, that is why they're sad. People will think, I'm sad because, he's no longer living and breathing. And, it's just terrible that, this man is no longer with us. We need to go a few layers deeper there. That's not really why people are sad or emotionally invested, I would argue. It's more to do with shit. I've been whipped out of my delusional bubble, and now I'm sort of gasping for air. Oh, Jesus, and my own mortality. That's what people are thinking. And slapping them in the face for a few minutes. It's like, yeah, Sam Neill has died. Dr. Alan Grant has died. Slap, slap, slap. He's aged out. His organs have failed. He's died. Slap, slap, slap. If he's aging, so are you. Slap, slap. You need to think. Think. Are you using your time, energy, and attention the way you want to use it? Slap, slap. And this makes people think. And we all know, folks, a fuck ton of people don't really want to think in life. It's painful when you have to think. It takes energy. It's uncomfortable. It can be awkward. To stare something like your own mortality in the face can be awkward and difficult to do. And what do most people do? Most people sort of, they get sad and then they just forget about it. They don't really realize why they were even sad or emotionally invested in the first place. And then they go back onto autopilot and they lose the lesson. They failed to acknowledge this check from the universe. And so they keep doing the same things that they've always done. And they aren't living the best life that they could possibly live. When you lose, folks, don't lose the lesson. And for me, as soon as I had this feeling, when Sam Neill, whenever I knew Sam Neill had died, and I started to get this feeling, I was like, hold on. I immediately engaged in a critical analysis and went, hold on. I don't even know who Sam Neill is. I don't know this man personally. And I only know him for one movie role. I haven't even followed his career. I only know him as Dr. Alan Grant. Why do I feel so emotionally invested in his passing? Fucking millions of people die every week. Millions of them. And there are loads of celebrities that die every week, every month. And I don't give a shit about them. I don't feel anything. So why am I feeling something for Sam Neill? When I do the critical analysis, it makes sense. Sam Neill means something to my life. What do I mean by that? Well, Sam Neill, because he played Dr. Alan Grant, a very important character in a very important movie in my childhood, he acts as the bridge back to my childhood. And by acting as the bridge and by having this connection early on in my life, as he ages and eventually dies, that is the indication that I am also aging. And so, when I engage in the critical analysis, the conclusion I come to is, yeah, right, now I understand why I'm so invested in this. This is yet another indication to me that time is passing. And I can feel it. I could feel it in the moment. I was like, yeah, okay, time is passing. And then what did I instantly do? A reflective analysis. That was the next thing I did. It was like, right, okay, yeah, Dr. Alan Grant. He's a goner. Like, the character will live on forever, but the actor's a goner. Right. Interesting. So I better, take stock here, do a little reflective work, and make sure that I'm doing what I ought to be doing, that I want to do in this life. All right, so that's number one. Let's have a look at the second part of this show. Let's go on to this article, this BBC article, and see if we can learn something from this article. You're probably thinking, is it not just going to be, how could there be anything interesting in an article? Well, let me read it, and we're going to extract the lesson. Okay, so let's get this article up here. There's Sam. There he is, the dinosaur man. Hero, legend, sweetheart. Tributes to Jurassic Park actor Sam Neill, who has died aged 78. Now, let's move down here. Let me zoom in so that we can see this writing a little more clearly. So this article was done on the 14th of July, or it was updated on the 14th of July. Okay, so we're going to start up here. Up here. Let me just bring this out a little. There we go. So, tributes have been paid to actor Sam Neill, famed for his starring role in Jurassic Park, following his death at the age of 78. It says the news was announced by his family, who said his death in Sydney, Australia was, quote, sudden and unexpected. Okay. Now, it says here, Neill played Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park, and also appeared in films including The Piano, The Hunt for Red October, Dead Calm, and Event Horizon, as well as BBC TV drama Peaky Blinders. So those are some of his roles. I don't know him for anything else other than Dr. Alan Grant. Okay. Now, let me just move in here a little bit more. There we go. Now this is where it gets interesting in the article for me. New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon described him as, quote, one of the greats, while Australian actress Toni Collette wrote, quote, I love you, dear Sam. You hero, you legend, you sweetheart, our great friend. You are already missed so very much. Let's keep going. Let's skip over that. That's some backstory. Here's another tribute. In his tribute, Luxon said, for more than 50 years he took New Zealand stories to the world, and his talents helped make our film industry into what it is today. One of our greatest cultural exports. We go on to another. Former New Zealand PM, Jacinda Ardern, wrote that Neill was, quote, such a thoughtful, curious and decent person. We've lost another incredible Kiwi, and I feel profoundly sad, she added. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese also paid tribute, writing on X that, quote, he starred in so many beloved Australian stories, and he earned a special place in Australian hearts. More tributes. Laura Dern, who starred alongside Neill in Jurassic Park, described him as, quote, my beloved lifetime friend. He showed me the depths of loyalty, protectiveness and love, always with the driest of wit, she said in a statement to E! News. She continues, he was a true and noble gentleman wrapped up in my dream leading man. I will love you forever, Dr. Alan Grant. Then we've got Spielberg. Jurassic Park director Steven Spielberg told Variety that he, quote, adored making the franchise with Neill, who he described as, quote, exceptionally collaborative. Then we have Goldblum, Jeff Goldblum, who played Dr. Ian Malcolm in the films, shared a photo of himself alongside Dern and Neill with the caption, quote, the next great adventure begins, love always and forever. The tributes continue. Australian pop star Kylie Minogue responded to the announcement of Neill's death with, quote, Veal. I don't know what that means. Goodbye, Sam, alongside a broken heart emoji. British actor Richard E. Grant wrote that he knew his fellow actor for 3 decades, saying Neill had, quote, guided and helped me through a very difficult time in my life, and describing him as, quote, an officer and a gentleman in the truest sense. Also paying tribute, Colin Trevorrow, who directed Neill in 2022's Jurassic World Dominion, which I have not watched, and I will not watch. But anyway, he did direct him. He described him as, quote, a deeply soulful and beautiful man. He was a friend and a collaborator at a challenging time, and his strength gave us all strength. I'll remember him for his tranquility, his love of wine, and for the calm assuredness he brought to his characters. It's not every lifetime you get to befriend a legend. Joe Cole, Neill's co-star in Peaky Blinders, posted, rest in peace, big dog. Daisy Ridley, who is set to star alongside Neill in the not yet released film The Last Resort, posted a picture of herself with Neill on her Instagram story alongside 3 broken heart emojis. Okay, you get the point here, folks. And there he is. Let's go down to this here. Look at this. This is the iconic for me. There is the iconic image of Dr. Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill. That is who I see Sam Neill as. Because I don't know who Sam Neill is as a person. Outside of the movie set, I've no idea what he's like as a person. I see him as Dr. Alan Grant. That is exactly. I love that image. Great stuff. Transports me right back to when I was younger. But you get the point here, folks. Let me zoom out of this and head back up to the top of our article. If you want to read the rest of the article, folks, there it is. Hero Legend Sweetheart. You can find it on the BBC News website. Okay, so let me get the main screen back up here because I want to extract a lesson from this article. Okay, so what did you notice from the article? What was I honing in on? The fuck ton of tributes, basically. Now, I have no problem with people doing a tribute, honouring Sam Neill or anyone who has retired or who has passed on. No problem at all. What's the lesson in it, though? Let me tell you the lesson, from my perspective. Sometimes what people will do in life is they will wait until a person is dead, until they truly divulge what it is that they feel about said person. You know, folks, religion is great. It's great for many reasons. And, you know, spirituality is great. for many reasons. They also have their costs as well. And one of the costs for me, one of the, I don't want to say problems with religion, but it sort of is a problem. It can be a problem. You see this whole idea of heaven and the fucking spirit realm, and this idea that we're all whizzing around as, energetic flows in the universe, flows of energy. This idea that our soul leaves our body and we go to this other place where all of these souls and all of this energy interacts. I do love the idea of some of this stuff. Like, I love the idea of cosmic energy. Like, I love this idea that the body is just a vessel for housing our energy. And energy can be neither created nor destroyed. So when the vessel dies, all that happens is the energy that powered the vessel goes back out into the universe. No energy has been destroyed. So I love all these ideas. I love the idea that when someone dies, yeah, their body might decompose, their tissue might rot. That's true. And the vessel will be given back to Earth. That's true. But I love this idea that when someone dies, the energy that powered them goes back out into the universe. And of course, we use our imaginations. And I love the idea also that this energy isn't just random, that it has a certain consciousness. I love this idea of a conscious energy that leaves a body. Now, it's great. And we're all free to indulge our imaginations. No problem. However, there is a trap that we can fall into. Let me explain the trap. Heaven, no problem. If you want to subscribe to the Bible and Christianity and Catholicism and all this sort of stuff, and you think there's a kingdom of heaven where all people rise up into whenever they die, no problem. If you think there's a spirit realm, where people's souls go to after they die, no problem. If you're, one of these people, a bit like myself, who loves this idea of cosmic energy, and that when a body and a vessel that houses the energy dies, the energy itself goes back out into the universe and sort of has a consciousness about it, all these things are fine. But here's the trap that we can fall into. The trap we can fall into is, if we believe that there's a heaven, and that the souls all go to the spirit realm, and that the conscious energetic flows that leave someone's body whiz around in the universe and interact with one another. If you indulge this a little too much, you know what happens? Or you know what can happen? You can become careless and sloppy in the here and now. So, let's pick heaven, for example, because, there are billions of people who follow Christianity. It's probably the biggest religion on earth. Correct me if I'm wrong. Billions of people subscribe to this notion of Jesus and God and heaven and all of this sort of stuff. Now, no problem. I have no problem with this at all. But the trap would be, here's what the trap would be. Sure, look. I'm going to go to heaven anyway. And sure, when I go to heaven, I get to see all the people who have died. So, it doesn't really matter what I do here on earth. It's just, as long as I'm a decent enough person, as long as I'm not breaking the law, as long as I'm not being mean to people, as long as I'm not being cruel, if I just live a good life, I'll ascend up into heaven and then I'll get to see all my people again. And so, if I'm going to see them again in a few years, do I really need to invest that much time and energy into them now on earth? If they're going to live for all of eternity in heaven, sure, I'll get to live with them as a spirit, or my soul will get to live with them for all of eternity. And sure, if I'm going to see them for all of eternity in the kingdom of heaven, well, sure. Does it really matter if I leave it all out on the field here on earth? Does it really matter if I, don't meet up with them for, that conversation that I should have met up with them for? Does it really matter if I don't wholeheartedly invest in them here on earth? Sure, I can always get them again in the spirit realm. I can always get them again in heaven. Can you sort of see what happens? People can get very complacent. They can get sloppy and careless. Because they can think, well, sure, if I'm going to go up to heaven anyway, if my soul is destined for the spirit realm, but sure, I'll see them again anyway. No big deal. And then what ends up happening? People get lazy. They get sloppy in the here and now. I don't know about you on the other end of the screen listening to this. I don't know about you, but I'm not in the spirit realm at the moment. I don't think I am. I don't believe I'm in heaven at the moment. I don't believe that I'm a fucking, conscious, energetic flow whizzing through the universe at the moment. No, I am a human whose feet are very firmly planted on planet Earth. This is the realm that I'm currently in. I'm in the physical realm of Earth. Okay. And what I would not want to do is allow religion or spirituality or fucking, cosmic energy talk to start influencing my behavior in a way here on Earth whereby I start to reduce my degree of investment in people who I really care about. That would be the trap. You could get a little careless with people in the here and now. Now, do I think any of these people on the BBC's article or in the BBC's article are careless and sloppy? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just using this as an example. Sam Neill has died. So all of these tributes, Sam Neill as a human, as a human who has the ability to interact with other humans, he will never have the opportunity to actually be in his human form again and to receive all of this adoration, admiration, and praise. He has died. And what I'll often see, folks, this is what I'll often see, just from an observational standpoint in my own life. I will often see people sort of get very careless with their relationships, whether it's romantic relationships or friendships. If we're lucky, folks, we probably have about 5 people in our lives. I'm not talking about your followers on TikTok or Instagram. And I'm not even just talking about people that you know. Just because you know someone, it doesn't mean they are, someone who has a deep relationship with you. I know a lot of people, but I wouldn't call them friends. That doesn't mean they're bad people, but I wouldn't call them friends. I wouldn't call them people who I deeply care about. No. There are a select few people on this planet, less than 5 people in my life who I would truly care about. The rest of them, I'll associate with them for some sort of a, more diluted friendship. There'll be a more diluted friendship, a sort of business relationship, something like that. No problem. But there aren't really that many people who I truly care about. Less than 5, I would say, for myself. And I would argue that most people have less than 5 truly deep relationships in their lives. Okay. What I'll often see is, I will see people, those 5 people. Let's just call it 5 people. Those 5 people in your life who really mean the most to you. I will see people get very sloppy with how they deal with those people. They'll get complacent and careless. And then what happens? Well, someday they die. And you've got a whole bunch of people in a very awkward set of circumstances now, whereby they have not said all the things that they wanted to say to this person while they were living in their human form here on Earth. In other words, people end up having regrets about having not truly either invested in this person to the degree that they should have and truly told them how much they value them. And so when the person dies, they have a whole fuck ton of regrets. Why didn't I not tell them this thing? Why didn't I not go out with them for that stroll on the beach? Why didn't I not take them out to dinner and have that conversation that I should have had? People will end up having a whole bunch of regrets. And then what ends up happening is we have people at a funeral service who get up onto the fucking podium and give this big soppy obituary, or whatever the fuck you call it, this big, what's the name for the thing in religious terms where they do this sort of a dedication to the person, and they're up on the altar and they're weeping and they're crying, I'm just so sad, he's gone, I'm seeing all this, and I'm sort of looking at the person and I'm like, yeah, are you really sad that they're dead? Or are you looking inwards, and are you extremely annoyed at yourself for not having invested in this person and for not having told this person what you really thought about them while they were still living? And now you're up on the fucking podium in the chapel weeping. Just terrible. Yeah, and I see a lot of this, and I'm not saying this is everyone, but I do see a lot of people go on like this. And I do question, what is the source of the emotion? What is the source of the tears? Is it really the passing of the person? Or is it a deep regret that they never invested in the way that they should have? And they are now deeply annoyed at themselves. They are so annoyed at themselves for having left things unsaid, for having not given their absolute best to this person. When I read this BBC article, what we can learn from this BBC article is, don't wait until the person is dead to truly tell them what you think of them. And don't wait until the person is dead. Because, once they're dead, you can't really do anything for them anymore. That ship has sailed. That train has raced past. You've missed the opportunity to get on that train. It's gone. And you see, sometimes what I notice is people who really indulge themselves in heaven. Oh, heaven. Sure, we're all gonna go to heaven. Come by fucking yeah. We'll all end up in heaven. So that means I don't have to do much here on earth. Well, let me tell you what I do. Because you're listening to Bandido Talks. So you must want to know what the Bandido thinks. I say this all the time. You know what my default is? Here's what my default is. Look, I'm like anyone. I have an imagination. I love the notion, as I've already said, of cosmic energy. That people's energy lives on. And it lives on in a sort of conscious state. Okay, that's me indulging my imagination, indulging my creativity. I don't know, I have no evidence to prove this is right. It's just a theory. It's a way that I sort of like to look at the universe. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's only transformed and transferred throughout the universe. Okay. While I may love that idea, let me tell you what my default is. My default is not, oh yes, heaven, the spirit world, and fucking conscious energetic flows of energy. No, that's not my default. My default is that you see whenever I die here on earth, the fucking light is out. That's it. That's what my default is. And I'll tell you why I have that as my default. The reason why my default is heaven doesn't exist, the spirit realm doesn't exist, conscious energetic flows don't exist. The reason why my default is that none of these exist is because this protects me against complacency in the here and now. As I said earlier, what realm am I currently in? Am I in heaven? Do I see the bearded man that is Jesus walking around? No, I don't. I'm going to assume Jesus is up there in heaven. Am I in the spirit realm? So do I see a whole bunch of spirits and souls whizzing around? No, I don't see that either. I came in the front door this morning and my cat was there looking for food. Pretty sure it's not a spirit. And am I seeing a whole bunch of, conscious energetic flows, whizzing past me? No. I am currently in the realm that I'm going to call Earth. That's where I am right now. Now look, when I die, if I end up in heaven, fantastic, great. That's a new chapter in my life. and I will appropriately adjust according to the new environmental set of circumstances and the new form that I find myself in. Great, no problem. If I end up in the spirit world and I can transform into a Tyrannosaurus Rex or a raptor in honor of Dr. Alan Grant, fantastic. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But you see right now, I ain't seen that bridge. I'm not at that point yet. I'm living here on Earth. There are lots of things for me to do here on Earth. There are lots of ways for me to enjoy my time in this human body here on Earth. And the last thing I want to do is to get fucking complacent. And to basically kick back and say, but Sherlock, I may as well smoke a bit of wacky tobacco. I may as well just, sniff the magic mushrooms. I may as well, just fucking, I don't know. I may as well just do some crazy things like jump in a river in Florida and swim with the crocodiles. Oh yeah, I'll go do that. Because, sure, I'm going to end up in heaven. And sure, when I end up in heaven, sure, I'll be able to meet all my past people. Wonderful stuff. No, that is not my default. My default is none of it exists. Now, as I've said, I have a brain which has an imagination. I do have some creativity in this brain of mine. And I'm more than happy to speculate about what happens after we die. No problem. I have my own theories about that. But while I am here living on planet Earth, I'm going to make sure that I live the best life that I can live in this fucking realm. And you see any of the people that I meet here on planet Earth, and any of those people who I have very strong relationships with, I'm going to make sure that I am investing as much as I can in them within reason, so that I have no regrets when the day and hour comes that they pass on to the spirit realm, heaven, or as a fucking conscious energetic flow in the universe. That's my default. And so, this is the thing. What do I learn from Sam Neill in this case? And whenever I read this BBC article, and I see all these people, giving their tributes to Sam Neill, well, what do I learn from this? Yeah, well, you know what I learned from this? Don't wait until the person's dead to give them your tribute. Has anybody ever thought of this? Why do we not have tributes while they're still alive? Why do we wait until they're dead? Why not every week do a tribute to someone that you care about? How about every month? I don't know what works for you, but why not demonstrate? Why not give your honorary speech? Why not give your tribute to the person while they're still alive? Why wait until they're dead? Because, let's say they are up in heaven, or they're in the spirit realm. Well, you can't interact with them yet, because you're still tied to the physical realm here on Earth. So, even if they are up there, or down there, or wherever the fuck they are, even if they are there, you're going to have to wait. And I don't see the sense in getting yourself into a position of weakness in life where you're going to have a whole bunch of regrets until the day that you die. Why not just make sure that you've no regrets? Why not just close the loop? Make sure you don't have any open loops. Is that not just good practice? How do you make sure that you don't have any open loops when it comes to your nearest and dearest relationships in this life? Give them your tributes while they're still alive. Invest in them while they're still alive. Tell them how much you value them while they're still alive. Show them how much you care about them while they're still alive. And if the day and hour comes, let's say they die prematurely. Let's say they die before their time. Okay, well, now you've no regrets. You've accounted for that, in other words. You've accounted for a premature death. You've accounted for just death as a whole. Is that not a better position to be in? Instead of being up fucking weeping on the altar. Fanula's gone! She's gone! God! When I see people going on like this, and I know everyone likes to say that everyone grieves differently. Right, okay. I'm happy to leave a bit of wiggle room for that. But when I see people going, I hear all this, I can't help but be a little suspicious. I'm a little suspicious. Because I'm thinking to myself, you know, if you had truly invested in this person, if you've truly invested time and energy in them, if you've told them that you care about them, that you value them, and you've demonstrated through your actions how much you care and value them, look, I'm not saying you can't be sad when someone dies. Fuck me. That's fine. We can't control the cascading emotions that take place when someone passes, or we have a big loss in life. Okay, no problem. But this fucking wailing, roaring, and crying, Jesus, that sort of, in my experience, is a symptom of something beyond the death of the person. I think there's a bit more going on there. And when I say a bit more going on, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking the person who's roaring and crying, yeah, I think there are a few regrets there. I think there are a few regrets. They didn't give their best to the person. They give a little bit, they give some amount, but they didn't give their best. And they know, as they stir over this dead person at a wake, or as they're lowering their fucking body into the grave, they know deep down they didn't give their best. And yeah, like we all know this, folks. It doesn't matter whether it's sport, or you're getting up to, you know, play some music, or you're going out to have a conversation with a friend. I mean, we all know when we haven't given our best in life. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling at all. Most people don't feel good when they're not giving their best. They get lousy feedback internally. It doesn't feel good. And if you know that you haven't fully invested in someone, and you haven't given your best, and then they die, well, yeah, you're going to be very annoyed at yourself. And that annoyance can definitely manifest as a bubbling and overspilling of emotion. That's true. But what I'm saying is, in the context of Sam Neill, and everything that's happened with Sam Neill, and we're seeing all of these tributes, obituaries, is that what they're called? I don't even know. These are fucking religious terms. Obituary. I don't really even know if I'm using the right word here. But I think you get what I'm saying. These tributes. All well and good. Look, if you want to make your public tribute to someone, I do have some suspicion about public tributes because, you know, people are opportunistic. Some people like to signal their little public tribute so that they can get a bit more credibility and status by appearing as a wonderful, marvellous person for honouring Sam Neill's death. You know, there'll be a bit of opportunism there. That's true, but I made it very clear at the beginning of the show. My emotional investment in Sam Neill has nothing to do with really him dying in and of itself. It has nothing to do with, you know, the sadness and sorrow that his friends and family are currently experiencing. No. It's to do with him being a connection to my past, and his death being a very clear indication that time is passing, and that I'm not immortal, and that someday, you know, I'm going to age out, and I'm going to die. And yeah, that makes us pause and reflect. But, you know, when I look at Sam Neill and I look at all these tributes, like, folks, the lesson is literally stirring us right in the face here. Stop waiting until the people that you care about are dead, until you then tell them what you really think about them. Don't wait until they're dead, because once they're dead, you can't invest in them anymore. That's the end of this physical interaction here on Earth. Now look, the spirit realm, heaven, conscious energetic flows in the universe, maybe whenever you die, maybe you'll reunite with them again. Great. But my default is none of it's real. My default is when you die, that's the end of the line. Lights are out. Why do I take this as my default? Because it ensures that I don't get sloppy and careless here on Earth. And when I don't get sloppy and careless, that means I don't have any regrets. which means when people around me start to die, which is going to happen, if the natural order of things, folks, is upheld, you are going to watch your parents die. They're going to die before you. It's normal and natural. So get used to it. You know, your grandmother and your grandfather, they're going to die too. There are going to be friends that you have that are older than you. Probability-wise, they're going to die before you as well. You know, you're going to have to deal with a lot of death in this life as you get older. So you've basically got a fork in the road. Are you going to be sloppy, complacent and careless and not invest in these people who you should be investing in? And then have a whole shit ton of regrets whenever they do die? Or are you going to do what is necessary right now here in the realm that we're going to call planet Earth in the physical world? Are you going to do everything you can right now to make sure that you have no regrets? So that when they do pass, you can continue to function in your own existence without the baggage of regret. I know what option I choose. I choose the second option. I make sure I don't allow heaven and the spirit realm to seduce me, to basically, you know, lure me into sloppy behavior, because it can. It definitely can. And so I just make sure that my default is invest in the people in the here and now, tell them truly what you think of them, and so that now means the loop is closed, all bases are covered, and if the worst thing happens, that they die, well, at least you give them everything. And you can stare yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I may be sad that this person has died. Fine. Part of living. That's part of life's contract, whether we like it or not. If you want to live, you have to understand that death is part of living. Fine. So if we can't stop death, there's no point in trying to stop it. It's going to happen. It's an uncontrollable, in other words. But what is a controllable? A controllable is the degree to which you invest in these people and the degree to which you tell them how much you care about them. That's fully under your control. Let's hone in on the controllables and let the uncontrollables do what they're going to do. We can't influence them. So that's what I take from Sam Neill's passing with regards to this article. And that's broadly what I think, folks. I think that draws the show to a close. That's a natural close. Again, you know, everybody's going to have their own thoughts and opinions, perhaps. If you've made it this far in the show, get down into the comments section. Let me know what you think. Leave your thoughts and insights down there. Do we have any live chats? But Jesus, we've got one live chat. Fancy that, folks. We have one live chat. Let's see. Who's the live chat? Let me have a look here. It's from Quiz22. But Jesus, Quiz has tuned in on a Saturday afternoon. Who would have thought it? You know, Saturday afternoon, I thought everybody would be busy. I was coming on here, I just thought, I'll do a little show here about Sam. Didn't think anybody would tune in. Let's see what Quiz has to say. He says the following. On a semi-related note, the Jurassic Park theme is an all-timer. You know, Quiz22 is exactly right. What did I say earlier? You know, not only can actors, through the characters that they play, act as a bridge back to a different time in our life, but so can music. Holy fuck. The Jurassic Park theme. I mean, it is one of the most iconic pieces of music, we could say, in the last, 30 or 40 years, maybe beyond. A true masterpiece. I love that soundtrack. It's fantastic. You know, the main theme is just so epic. It's got this beautiful blend of reflectiveness and epicness. It sort of merges these two things together. And I would agree with Quiz. It is an absolute all-timer. An all-time great piece of music. A great score. And yeah, I think the fact that the music is so great, the music is also tied to Dr. Alan Grant and Sam Neill. So whenever I hear the Jurassic Park music, you know who I think of? Sam Neill as Dr. Alan Grant. That's one of the main images that flash into my mind, is Dr. Alan Grant. So whenever I hear the Jurassic Park theme, boom, there it is again, Dr. Alan Grant. And then what happens? Again, we have a wee moment of reflection. It's like, yeah, he's died. Okay, that's a little check from the universe. Am I doing what I should be doing with my life? Because the universe has just given me evidence that time is indeed passing. The fact that Sam Neill has passed means time is ticking on. Am I using my time, energy, and attention in the way that I should be? That's a question that we all have to ask ourselves. So look, I completely agree with Quiz 22. It is an all-timer, the Jurassic Park theme. Excellent. Okay, we've got no more live chats. We want to thank Quiz 22 for getting in touch, for leaving a comment in the live chat. We appreciate it, Quiz 22. You know, folks, if you enjoyed the show, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Feedback, of course, is always welcome. And then finally, if you like in general what we do here at Bandido Talks, then feel free to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Folks, we have over, We have over 70 live shows. What is this? This is the 79th live show, isn't it? I'm almost sure it is. 79. So the next live show will be the big 80. How about that? So we have so many live shows here on YouTube. You can check them all out. We have a shit ton of content on the channel. We've got the Bandido out on court swinging the racket. We've got him playing a bit of music. We've got him out in nature. We've got him speaking Spanish. If you want to improve your Spanish, go check out the channel, folks. We've got so much content. Speaking in Spanish, Spanish-only episodes, you know, the tennis episodes, the music, the mind streams, the lessons in nature. We've got the live shows here, the case studies. Hopefully going to bring you a few more interviews as well. That would be fun. But subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Folks, also don't forget, use the scrolling black banner below. You'll see it coming up. Where is it? It's over here. Way over here. It's coming on the screen now. We're also live over on Rumble. You'll see it. Scrolling black banner. www.rumble.com/Bandido Talks. If you head over to Rumble, folks, we do different live shows over on Rumble. Completely different live shows. A little more political and a bit more US based. So if you want more political content from the Bandido, more US based stories, then head over to Rumble. We've got over 40 live shows over there. Completely different live shows. You don't get them here on YouTube, you're going to have to go over to Rumble. So if you want more content from the Bandido, more live show content, head over to Rumble. We have more political US-based live shows that we do over there. Again, you can follow over on X. X is useful, folks, for keeping the Bandido up to speed with what some of the current news stories are. And also, you know, we can notify you of any upcoming live shows that we have coming your direction. Follow over on X. There it is on the scrolling black banner below. And finally, we'll get there, folks. Use the scrolling red banner up above. You'll see there's an email address, matteo@inspirit.uk. If you want to get in contact, the Bandido malfunctioning towards the end of the show. You never thought you'd see the day, would you? But the Bandido, you know, if you want to get in contact with him, use that email address, matteo@inspirit.uk. If you want to leave a question for the Bandido, send a question to that email. If you just want to get in contact, you know, maybe you've listened to the Bandido for a while. Maybe you like the analytical framework that the Bandido uses. Maybe you've listened to some of the shows and some of the content and you think, you know what, I like the Bandido's perspective. I like how he sees the world. Maybe the Bandido could help me with some sort of a problem that I have in my life, and he could apply his analytical framework. Folks, whether it's a question or just striking up contact, use that email up above on the scrolling red banner. It's coming back onto the screen again. matteo@inspirit.uk. That is where you can find the Bandido. Folks, that is everything from me this Saturday afternoon. It's almost 3 p.m. It's time to get some grub. I've got some rice waiting for me. The Bandido's a happy man when he's eating his rice. He loves it. So look, I'm going to go get some grub, folks. You enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And with all of that said, it is over and out this week on YouTube live from the Bandido.